Hi everyone, we're going to do another Battlefront 2 modding tutorial here. This one's going to be about making modifications to an existing side, and so we'll get started here right away. For this example, we're going to make a modification to the CIS side, just several of the units. We're going to change some of their properties and weapons and see what it looks like. So right now I'm in my data ABC folder. That's just my example world folder. Now sides are stored, as you may have guessed, in the data ABC sides folder. And when you first create a map, the only thing you're going to see in there is this turret side, and that's just because originally it was intended for turrets to be included in pretty much every map, so the developers just threw that in there by default. Most of the time you can just get rid of that, but we'll just leave it there. It's not bothering anybody right now. So what we'll need to do if we want to modify a stock side is get its information from the assets. So we're just going to go back up to BF2 mod tools, go to assets, sides, and then we'll just take the whole CIS folder, copy it, head back to BF2 mod tools, data ABC, sides, and paste it in there. Alright, one thing I should note is that you should never change anything in the assets folder. If you go back here, never make changes to anything in here. Always copy it into the appropriate place in your world folder before you make any changes. Just because this stuff you're going to use a lot for various projects and various purposes, and if you make changes to it and maybe something goes wrong, you will have to reinstall the mod tools completely to get those back. Alright, so let's go back to the sides folder. So there's our CIS side, and you can see the setup is the same as the turret folder more or less. There's the effects folder, mesh folder where models and textures go, the munged folder where pre-munged animation files go, the ODF folder, this is property files for units, weapons, vehicles, and then these .combo files, which we'll go over a little bit later in this tutorial, which pertain to animation strings for units, melee units that is, and the rec folder, which is just a list or a directory of units and vehicles that can be run into the game. And then we've got these two other folders, or files, sorry, rec files. So this is cis.rec, and this contains a list of .rec files that can be loaded into the game, and those files are all in here. The other one is CIS shell, and this we really don't have to worry about at this point. It just calls some models that are used, I believe, in Galactic Conquest, so you don't actually have to do anything with that unless you're making changes to a Galactic Conquest content. We're not in this case, so let's think about what we want to do first. Maybe we will change Darth Maul's weapon. He's got the red bladed double lightsaber. Let's give him 2 single lightsabers instead, and maybe change his animations up. We'll use Ayla Secura's resources from the Republic side to do that, because she is the only character with 2 lightsabers. We could, you might say, oh well, what about General Grievous? Well, he has an entirely different skeleton setup for his animations, and is actually set up for 4 lightsabers. It just would be very, very complicated to implement that. So to start, let's open up the ODF folder. the mesh folder, and I'm just going to open up a new window. Let's go to my mod tools and assets. I'll split the screen here. Now we want to pull out some of Ayla's information from the stock Republic assets. So we're going to copy the appropriate mesh files over first. So to find Ayla's, usually that'll be under rep and then inf, which stands for infantry. Here she is. So that's her model file. We don't need that because we're just keeping Darth Maul stuff. We can keep scrolling until we get here. Okay, so we need lightsaber, or sorry, Ayla lightsaber. There we go. Mesh, and we just want to open that up really quickly. You can use a text editor or a hex editor like I have, and just find the reference to .targa, which is the texture file we'll need. Okay, so in this case it's inf web lightsaber .targa. So it looks like they used the Imperial lightsaber texture for her. So we'll keep that selected and scroll all the way back up to the top to find inf web lightsaber, and just control click that to do a multiple selection, copy, and oh gosh, copy and paste. Okay, it's already there. That's alright. Now this is what we've copied in. That's her lightsaber model, just for the 2 lightsabers that she carries. And that pretty much covers it for new meshes, because we're not gonna worry about the blue and the green lightsaber textures. We're gonna use red lightsabers because they are awesome. So let's head back into just the base side folders here. Next up we have the munged folders, and as I mentioned before, these contain pre-munged animations, or sets of animations for characters. So you can see in the Republic one we've got Mace, Obi-Wan, we've got certain animations for flying vehicles, and Yoda, a few others. So we'll head back to the top and take all 3 of Ayla's files. It's important to get all 3 of them. They do have to go together. We'll copy them and paste them in the CIS folder. So now we can have CIS units that use Ayla's animations for themselves. Okay, just head back out into the base folders here. Now, ODF. We'll open up each side's ODF folder, and again this is where we find property files. So I'm just going to go over some of Darth Maul's information here before we get started copying stuff over. Here's Darth Maul's property file, CIS Hero Darth Maul. I'm going to open that up in my Notepad++. So there are a few things that are important to look at here, and we're going to cover in this tutorial. First one is animation name. This refers to the animation, the pre-munged animation files that we copied over in the previous step. Right now his are the stock Darth Maul animations, which you can see. Oops, that's Republic. Here we go. Right there. Okay, so that's the name that it's referencing. If we wanted to somehow give him Jango Fett's animations, we would put Fett here instead of Maul. Or if we wanted to make something that looked really, really weird, we would give him this super battle droid. So we put SB droid in animation name. These properties control his force jump. This line here controls how much damage he takes from falling long distances. And all Jedi units have this set to 0 because you really don't want them taking damage from falling when they're allowed to jump ridiculously high. And then here's the third part that we're going to look at. And this is the weapon section. So we've got, you can see his first weapon here is named CIS Double Saber. Weapon ammo is 0, that just means it has infinite ammo. I'm not even sure if you can add ammunition to lightsabers. I'm not sure how that would work. Probably would crash the game, but I'm not certain on that. And then you've got the secondary weapon, saber throw. And this line weapon channel just means that it's not a visible weapon that he can carry around and switch between. He can switch it, but it's not visible in his hand. So things like grenades, mines, force powers all go here. And speaking of force powers, we've got his third weapon, which is force push. Okay. So that's the main part that we're going to look at here. Now we don't need to copy any new unit ODFs over. We do, however, need to copy Ayla's weapon ODF and her .combo file, because as I mentioned, .combo file will contain the properties for her animation strings or combos. So we'll just select that, copy, and paste into CIS. Now when we're copying information over like this between sides, you can theoretically keep the same name, but if you are going to be making any changes, then it's usually a good idea to at least rename it somehow in a small way, because what happens is when the assets from your world or your side are loaded into the game when you play it, and there are duplicate names, then one will be overwritten. And when you have two identically named files that have different properties, so if we make any changes to one of them, then the others are going to be overwritten, and that can cause some problems. So I'm just going to rename this one that we've copied over CIS Hero Ayla.combo. And moves up here. And let's find her lightsabers as well. So they should be right here. Yeah, rep wep lightsaber Ayla. Paste, and I'm going to call this CIS wep lightsaber Ayla. Okay. Good, so that covers it for ODFs, and we don't need to copy any rec files because we're not making any new units. We don't need to copy any effects because there aren't any for Darth Maul or for Ayla. So we're covered at this point. Now the next step is to go back up to CIS Hero Darth Maul, his ODF, and just open that back up in Notepad. Step 1 is to rename his animation. Now, if I remember correctly, the animation name for Ayla isn't spelled quite correctly. It's got A-A-L-Y-A instead of A-A-Y-L-A, and that's fine. We'll just make sure we catch that typo when we reference it in here. A-A-L-Y-A. Perfect. I'm going to save that. And we'll come back and just change his jump settings later, just for fun. But right now what we need to do is change his weapon to refer to the new Ayla weapon that we copied over. And I've lost that momentarily. This is terrible. There we go. CIS WEP lightsaber Ayla. And it's spelled incorrectly there again. Okay, so we've got that entered correctly there. We'll keep saber throw and force push. Alright. So that's it. That's all we need to do for Darth Maul. At this point, we would have him in game. He would have Ayla's lightsabers, and we would be good from there. Now, there is one issue that would happen, and that's that we would get just some funny looking animations. So we do need to fix some things about this Ayla lightsaber ODF file. So most of this is fine. We can keep this. We can keep this the same. Now this is where we need to make some changes. Combo animation bank. What this is a hierarchy of animation banks that are called by the weapon when it's being used, and they're called in order of which one takes precedence over the other. So your basic human saber animations are gonna start off as the base, I guess. So those are just the really basic animations that you see for Luke, for example. And then you've got this one here, which is Rep Hero Ayla by default. This references the .combo file that we've copied over. So we need to rename that because we renamed ours to CIS Hero Ayla. Just quickly change that to CIS. Okay. Moving down, num damage edges, as you may be able to guess, specifies how many lightsaber blades are able to cause damage. We could theoretically change this to 1 and she would still have her second blade, but only one of them would actually damage people when it was used. Alright. So we don't have to worry about offhand fire point name. We can tinker with the length and width of her blades if we want. Let's make it just slightly, let's make one a little bit longer. We'll make it 1.2 meters long, and width we'll leave the same. Alright, and here I want to change both blades to red, so you can see the one is green, one's blue. It should be simple as just changing it to red lightsaber. I just want to make sure the spelling is correct. Always verify your spelling, because the devs were not always consistent with how things were spelled in the game assets. So red lightsaber, I'll just quickly do the other one as well while I'm here. Good, so we've got 2 red lightsabers. Okay. And then the next property here is lightsaber trail color, and that's just how the glow as you swing the lightsaber looks. There's kind of that whoosh effect as the lightsaber is swung. Right now you can see it's fairly green. This is red, green, blue, and alpha, or transparency. So if we want to make it look red, let's change this to something like 255, change green down to maybe 10. And 128 is pretty good because that's 50% transparency. It's still see-through, but it's definitely still visible. Let's make this second blade a little shorter. Yeah, let's just change it to 0.8. Leave the width. And texture is already red. Let's just use the same light properties for the trail. 255, 10, 7, 128. Okay, good. One thing I did notice, and I made a bit of a mistake here, is that there are two separate models for the lightsabers. So I goofed that. The one is Rep Wep Ayla lightsaber, which I did copy over, but then there's the second one, which is just Rep Wep Inf lightsaber. So I'm really quickly going to run back. I apologize for that. Let's see, Rep Wep Inf lightsaber. Okay. Perfect, and I'll just check the texture here. Same texture. Perfect. Okay, so copy, paste that in the CIS mesh folder. When copying mesh files over, it doesn't really matter if you rename them. In fact, it's generally better not to. This is different from the ODF files and combo files. All right. So that is pretty much it for making it functional. Now the weapon and animations will function just fine in game. Let's have a quick look at the combo file. Now it is a little complicated to look at, and I'll just save that. So this is cis-hero-ayla.combo, and again what this does is it calls animations from the animation bank. It gives them properties such as how they fade in and blend with each other and what kind of damage is done. So this is where you can determine how hard a lightsaber will hit you, how much energy a dash or a jump attack takes up. Okay, so this is pretty much just the first section is all idle and deflect, so you can see it. It's broken down into state and transition for the most part. So a state is, okay, here's what's happening when somebody is, in this case, idle, so just standing there. And it's got properties like duration, how long can it last, and then transition. So if I'm idle and I want to start deflecting, then it'll provide properties for that. Okay. And in this case, it's more conditions. So when you're idle, you can transition to attack if the posture is stand or crouch. So if you're standing or crouching, fine. If you're jumping, no, you can't. And if you press the fire button. Okay, and this here, now let's just go to back attack. So you might wonder, okay, well then how do you specify moving backwards versus forward? And then this, one of the conditions is that you have to be moving backwards. So thrust is how that looks. Thrust has to be greater than 0.25, so you have to be moving faster than that. And thrust angle needs to be somewhere between 135 and 225. So if you start with 0 degrees as you're facing forward and you start moving, once you've moved 135 degrees, then you're kind of facing more or less backwards, and keep moving to 225 and you've got sort of a cone facing backwards, so you've got a little bit of room to move diagonally as well for the back attack to work. Anyway, this is all deflect stuff, transition, deflect jump, deflect crouch, roll, sprint, and then you move into your attacks. So let's look at the forward attacks. So this calls the animation, and this we really don't have to worry about because it's all contained within the ALA pre-munged animation bank. I will do another tutorial at some point going over custom animation banks. There is a really great tutorial by Darth Duck on GameToast.com. You can find it in the forums on how to make your own custom animation sets. So this determines the sound, and input lock, what that does as it sounds, it locks input so that you can't do anything really while this attack is playing, except for, and this exclamation mark means except for, thrust. So you can control which direction you're moving, and that's about it. Okay, so there's a few properties in here we don't need to worry about. And this is the actual attack property itself. So we've got edge, and that goes back to the weapon property, ODF, so number of damage edges. And this is edge 1. So it specifies how long the edge does damage, because you'll notice there's no damage being done when you're just standing there with the lightsaber, so damage has to be enabled when you're attacking. So it starts at 2 and goes until 7 frames in for the animation. Length, that's the length of the invisible damage edge. So we could change that if we wanted to make it longer for our one blade and maybe shorter for the other blade, but 1.5, it's such a small difference that we aren't really going to notice it. And then the width and the amount of damage. So that basically, if we do attack 1, just that's the single left click, then we're going to do 400 damage with one blade and 300 with the other. Okay, and then we can transition to a number of different states from that. So that's just a basic look at it. I'm not going to actually change any of this right now. That'll be in a different tutorial, but that's just a really quick look, introductory look at the combo file. Okay, so we've made the changes we need to make for our unit. And at this point we need to do a little bit of scripting to actually allow the unit to be seen in-game. So I'm opening up Notepad++, and I've got my game mode script open. You should know how to get there by now, but if you don't, you can see the directory up here, data ABC, common, scripts, ABC, and then the script. This is Clone Wars Conquest. And I'm in the second sort of 2/3 of the script here, function script in it. And what we want to do to allow changes to our CIS side, which is already loaded here for us, this is just the stock side, is we want to add a line, or just a few characters really, that will tell the game to change the directory that it's searching for the assets. Right now it looks in the, I'll just show you really quickly. So right now it's looking inside /cis.level, and what that means is it's looking in just the stock data folder as opposed to the add-on folder. It looks in data, level PC, side, and it loads the CIS level file. But if we're making a custom side, we want it to look in add-on and then our add-on folder. So all we have to do to change that is go in between the double quote and side and just add DC : and that changes the directory to the downloadable content directory. I'm pretty sure that's what that stands for at this point, but it doesn't really matter. It changes it to add-on, ABC, data, level PC, side, and we will have, after we munge, a CIS.level file in here. Great, so we've got that. Darth Maul by default is already loaded in here, and he is already set as the hero. But honestly, I'd like to not have to play with the hero settings or use cheats or anything to get him in right away. I'm just going to make the default rifleman into CIS hero Darth Maul. So that as soon as we get in, we can play as him. And that's literally all we need to do to get him in. So we'll just we'll minimize that, and I'm going to go back to data ABC, build, and mod tools visual munge. Then we need to leave common checked because we changed the script. Scripts are under common. And we also need to select CIS. And we're good to munge from there. It'll take just a few minutes because we've never munged the CIS assets before, so it has to go through literally everything and compile it. So I'm just going to pause recording here for a moment. Alright, so the munge is finished. It just took a couple minutes. Give us the all done message, and we got some warnings. That's normal. You can see it's all from the model munging. It'll say things like no collision geometry, which is totally fine for models. Splitting catalog, I'm pretty sure, is just the enveloping weights for the animations for those models. And really no problem with any of these. So let's close that. And close munge. And you can see here I left this window open. We've now got the CIS and the CIS shell level files here. Again, shell is not needed, but it's there anyway. And just one thing really quickly that I had forgotten to do in the original recording, I just have to go back and quickly fix, is that whenever you make any changes to any side at all or make a new side, it's really important that you copy over the common side. So I didn't do that right away, and I really should have. So we've got CIS and turret here, but if we're changing CIS, which we are, we need to go back to assets, sides, common, and just copy that, put it in data ABC sides. The reason for this is because common contains dependencies for pretty much every weapon and a lot of units in the game. Just opening it up really quickly, you can see there's a comm wep, chain gun, flamethrower. You've got all your force powers are in here. Comm pistol. So these are basically the prototype properties for all the weapons in the game, because more or less what they did with pretty much every unit is just give them the same weapons and give them slightly different sound effects and looks, and the properties are all just derived from this one common folder. So it's really important that you munge that too, and I had almost forgotten to do that. So I just threw that in there, and I will quickly munge that again. You just need to munge sides common. Yeah, so I'm having a pretty off day here when it comes to getting this right. This is normally something I don't have too much difficulty with, but apparently I am screwing it all up. I'm just going to munge everything here. There we go. Okay, so we're munging the turret side as well, that's fine. But I munged everything just so that we could get all those common assets in there again. Okay, I think we're good this time. I apologize for that. And let's go to example, conquest, Clone Wars, give it a launch. CIS, hey, look at that. Alright, so there's Darth Maul. Now his weapon shows up as CIS Wep Lightsaber Ayla. That's because we haven't localized yet, but that's easily done. And you can see that the right lightsaber is quite long. The lightsaber in his left hand is pretty short. That's great. And they're both red blades. He's got the Ayla animations going on here, which is pretty darn cool. Yeah, alright. We've got saber throw, we've got force push. This is shaping up to be a pretty cool Darth Maul unit. I won't get carried away with that, even though I could have a lot of fun just rampaging around for a while. So we've done a melee unit for the CIS team. Let's make some changes just to some of the weapons for the infantry units. Let's maybe do the engineer, CIS inf engineer. Where do you go? There he is. So this is the default engineer. And how this works is like this. You've got a unit called CIS inf default, and this is basically the prototype CIS unit. So it contains things like explosions, because most of the droids explode. So it's got an explosion name, a health type, which is the droid health type, and that's used for certain types of weapons and explosions. You can make them only target droids or humans. There's explosion properties, so chunk frequency. You can see that it contains things called battle droid chunks, which are essentially those little pieces of metal that fly everywhere when you kill the droids. So this is the basic CIS unit, and then it gets broken down into default engineer, marine officer, etc. And so the default engineer, its parent is this CIS inf default unit, and then this has more specific properties like immune to mines, because they can't be blown up by mines. It's got the weapons here, the award shotgun, and then voiceover information here. There's a lot of it. And then it gets even more specific. Then we've got just the CIS inf engineer. Now you may wonder, why bothering have just the default engineer and then the engineer? Good question. In this case, it's not really that important. But for the Republic side, for example, you've got the Episode 2 Trooper and the Episode 3 Trooper. You've got the Episode 2 Sniper, the Episode 3 Sniper, Episode 2 Engineer, Episode 3 Engineer. So, and it gets even more complicated with the Rebels, for example, because there's an urban combat rebel, jungle combat, desert combat, and so they've got all these different looks, but they keep the same weapon, which is why you have the default sort of prototype for that class. And the other ones are just more specific in terms of how the rebel looks, how its skin is, or what its model looks like. For the CIS, I believe the only one where they have two is just the officer. You've got the officer, regular officer, and then the hunt officer. And the only reason they did that is because they wanted to add points to unlock equals 0, so you don't have to unlock the officer when you're playing hunt mode. As you can see, that line isn't in there at all for the regular officer. Okay, so we'll close that. So we can see that the CIS weapon is CIS Wep Inf Shotgun. He's got the fusion cutter, jetpack, and the power-up dispenser. Let's maybe change this shotgun into just a rifle. There should already be a white. My God, I can't speak today. There should already be a rifle in here. There it is, CIS Wep Inf Rifle and Rifle Ordnance. So if we open up this file here, you can see the class parent, as I mentioned, is the Com Wep Inf Rifle. So that's the common rifle prototype for all the rifles in game. And then some specific properties for this CIS version of the rifle. So you've got the geometry, first-person geometry, ordnance. So that's this CIS WEP inf rifle ord. Fire point, which is where the ordnance appears from when you fire it, and then sound properties. We will make some changes here. I'm also going to open up CIS WEP inf rifle ord, and you can see there's nothing in here, which basically just means that it's going to copy all the properties from the common one. So to get an idea of what sort of properties you can add or change in a weapon ODF, it's always a good idea to go to common ODF and then look up that weapon's prototype. So here's com weapon rifle. It's got a lot of properties in it. A lot of these are for AI. So the first one is score for metals type and metals type 2 lock. This is for the award weapon. So award weapon type 1 is going to give you the award rifle. Animation bank, so what sort of animation should be played while that unit is carrying this kind of weapon. AI stuff here. Do you want them to target enemies or neutral or friendly? If this was a healing gun or something, you'd want them to target friendlies and not enemies. Do you want people to shoot at vehicles with this? Not going to do a whole lot, so this has been set to 0. Same with buildings because they have a lot of health. This is just range finding stuff, so pretty much the AI aren't going to shoot at anything over 64 meters away with the rifle. Zoom properties, accuracy stuff. Here I'm not going to go into that in this tutorial. And then we've got some of the performance values. So rounds per clip. So how many shots is this weapon going to get off before you have to reload? And in this case it's 50. I'm going to change, I'm not going to change the common one, but I'm going to copy this line. And we can simply put that into CIS weapon rifle under properties. And now we change it to, I don't know, let's make it something a little more realistic, like 30. So 30 rounds before he has to reload. This will overwrite this. Reload time is fine. Shot delay, let's make it shoot a little more quickly. So I'll copy that line. And let's make it just a tiny bit faster, so maybe it's 0.2. So basically there's a shot every 0.2 seconds, so that means 5 shots a second. Let's change it to 0.12, so there's more like 8 shots. Let's make exactly 8 shots. 8 shots per second now. So we're going to run out of our clip in about like basically 3 seconds. Go back to the common one. Let's see. Salvo stuff. So that would be, for example, the award rifle. When you click once, it shoots 3 times. Most of these, most weapons just have nothing here. That's fine. And I think that's pretty much all I want to change for the rifle at this point. There are many, many more ODF properties that you can add in here. I'm not going to go over those right now, but you can find a list on gametoast.com. So I'll close that. And then let's look at the, well, let's go back here and save this first of all. And then let's go to the ordnance one, which is currently empty, and open the common ordnance. And you can see there's quite a bit in here. Laser texture, laser length, how long it lives, its velocity, damage. Let's do this. Let's change the lifespan and velocity, and the damage properties. I'm just going to copy these 4 lines and I'll explain this in a sec. So lifespan, right now it lasts 0.8 seconds. Let's just, I don't know, make it 0.9. seconds. Velocity, we'll up that to 450. And let's increase the damage to maybe just 85, because it's, you know, it's got less ammo. It shoots a little more quickly, but okay. And then this here, I personally never bother with this. I'm not too sure what its importance is, but usually I'll just change this to -1, because you can see in the comment here what the damage would be at the end of the transition period. A negative value means that no change is applied. Okay, so I'm just going to change it to -1 so that nothing is changing here, and we can actually just remove these 2 lines because those will already be in here. Alright, good. So I think I'm pretty happy with just that now. Actually no, one more thing, because it's moving so quickly, let's change the laser property so it's a little more visible. Let's make the laser length 3. Laser width will leave the same. Glow length will make 5, and blur length 7. Those should all be pretty self-explanatory. Yeah, we'll leave that. Okay. Good. And then the other thing we need to do, of course, is just go back in here and change this from shotgun to rifle. So it's now CIS weapon rifle. We'll give him, yeah, 8 magazines, clips. It's fine. Now all we have to do is go back to data ABC, build, munge. We don't need to munge that because we aren't changing anything in the scripts. We just need to munge CIS. And it'll only make the changes to the files that we changed. So we can close that. I'll open up the mod tool. Example map, Conquest, Clone Wars. Go to the CIS, and if we hover over this, the engineer droid here, we can see he's got the blaster rifle. And if we shoot it, nice. Let's test it out on a unit. Nice. Okay. So this is pretty powerful. We can, of course, tweak the settings to our liking. We can make it a ridiculously overpowered weapon, or we could tone it down a bit so it's a little more balanced. I kind of like the feel of it, honestly. The rate of 8 shots per second is pretty nice. We could even make this a lot more fun, or less fun, depending how you look at it, but more realistic by adding some kickback to it, so that it would basically, as you shoot, it would go up, and you would have to fight to keep it aimed. So maybe a good way to balance this would be to decrease the accuracy with the spread and yaw settings. And you can tweak that all you like. Anyway, I think that's a good start for now, so you now know how to change the character's weapons for a melee and a ranged infantry unit. So I think that'll pretty much wrap it up for this tutorial. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.